Hey geeks, and welcome to what has to be one of the nichest videos we've done in a long time, which is what is Witbier?
What's Wit got to do with it?
Not a pun. Wit's love got to do with it, might just about work. What do you know about Witbier, Brad?
Well, surely wit means wheat. Well, we know it means wheat.
Or white.
Or white. Does it mean wheat? Does it mean white, Johnny? It means both, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
But why is it different to a German wheat beer?
Yes, great question to start with. So you've got the Witbier, which is the Belgian variety, and you've got the Witbier or the Weissbier. Weiss is white in German.
Yeah.
And they're two very distinct styles, even if they have a lot in common as well.
Yes.
So the German Bavarian Weissbier, that uses a very specific yeast, is banana and clove.
All that estery
and
stuff
bubble gum.
we're kind of used
to. Really sweet and full-bodied kind of beers with very low bitterness that you drink in a tall glass in a beer garden with a pretzel.
Delicious.
Delicious stuff.
Yeah.
A wit beer is a very different beast. So while it has lots of wheat in it, the same as in Germany, between 30 and 50%-ish amount of wheat to normal barley malt, the main difference is that it uses spices and occasionally herbs and fruit peels. So it's actually this wonderful little link, a little window on the past. So the classic window on the past beer is lambic. And from that we learn about spontaneous fermentation. So all these lambic beers were brewed, cooled overnight, and then while they were cooling they'd be infected by wild yeasts and bacteria. And that's how all beer was pretty much made until we discovered yeast, started wrestling nature into control when it came to brewing. So lambic tells us about the fermentation back in the olden days.
Yeah.
Witbier is a wonderful way of looking at how we used to flavour beer. So this is before we started using hops. And that's the little window we get to open with a Witbier.
Okay.
So we only started using hops broadly in European brewing in the 14th, 15th, or even 16th century, depending on the countries. Before that, we were using a thing called Gruit. And Gruit, G-R-U-I-T, is a mix of herbs, spices, or fruit peels. Stuff generally that you'd find around the brewery, these farmhouse breweries, beer was mostly made on farms, that you could use, or monasteries. So you're going out there and finding tasty stuff in your surroundings to flavour your beer with.
Yes.
And that's that's what's left over in the Witbier. So at some point in the probably 14th, 15th century, in the monasteries of the farmhouses of France, Belgium and the Netherlands, they started using coriander, which, believe it or not, can grow in southern Europe, like southern France, Greece, and orange peel, which I guess they'd have got from Spain, maybe?
Quite exotic, yeah. It's like silk trail sort of stuff, right?
So I haven't actually worked out exactly how those two pretty unusual ingredients, particularly up in the Netherlands, although the Netherlands obviously was a big trading post and a very rich country back then, how that ended up in beer. But that's how the Witbier kind of came about. So it had some funky flavourings, and some Witbiers are still sour, even today. Farmhouse Witbiers, they might be called. Some of them were sour, but they would have all used herbs and spices. Right. So this one, Allagash White, which is our favourite wit beer, the best wit beer in the world. And if everybody drank that, we'd all love wit beer. This one is made with curacao, orange peel, and fresh crushed coriander seeds. Should we give it a go?
Mate, I cannot wait.
Alrighty. Well, before we give it a go, we have to turn the can upside down, because if you look at it, it says, "Rouse your yeast. Your curiosity just paid off." With the can bottom up, gently swirl to enrich the beer's flavour. Flip open and enjoy. I don't know why I struggle with the word flip.
I mean, it's a flipping hard word, isn't it, really? I like that. A little bit of added value there.
Exactly. Right, here we go, Bradley.
Oh, it's a lively one.
You remember the fun we've had with this beer during our New England documentary?
Dude, I mean, like, this stuff, as I've previously said, drinking this around the States in dive bars, at the brewery, wherever I've drunk it, I've always enjoyed it. I think it's just beautiful. It's
a stunning beer. Let's get the aroma on it and then we'll talk more about the beer. That smell is so unique. Again, like the wheat beer, there's no other style that really has that characteristic. It's a very specific yeast and that really floral coriander note and that slightly pithy orange, which is in this one very, very light. It's a very sweet.
I get like it's like a sort of lemon meringue sort of.
Definitely.
Slightly yogurty.
You can definitely get a kind of vanilla note from this, along with the acidity that's going on.
Feels sort of sharp and sweet.
Yeah.
And crisp and clean. Yeah. Just on the nose.
Lemon meringue is
amazing.
Is bang on. And then it's velvety without being really rich, like a Weissbier would be.
Yeah.
and a little bit lighter than a New England IPA as well, because it's meant to be, you know, this was the beer that everybody was drinking when it was produced on the farms and the monasteries. It needed to be an everyday, refreshing beer, because even being a monk is hard work. You know, they worked the fields, they made the cheeses, they brewed the beer.
There's something about the mouthfeel, how velvety that carbonation is, which is really unique to this beer. I don't know quite what they've done with it to achieve that, but
I mean, I think what's interesting, it's not unique in that lots of beers have that body, but it's combined with this sweet, creamy, vanilla-y flavour that makes it feel like a very different experience.
It's almost, I mean, it doesn't taste like a cream soda, but it's almost like a cream soda experience.
It's definite cream soda vibe.
It's got like a sort of ice cream float cream soda vibe about it, without being like dangerously sweet.
Yeah, it's actually a very dry beer. There's no bitterness at all. No. All of the kind of the refreshing cleanliness is coming from the orange peel. And some from the spiciness of the coriander. So it's a beautifully balanced beer. It's definitely designed to be by the pint.
It's just unique, mate. I don't know what else I can like compare it to apart from cream soda, lemon meringue.
It's not beer references we're making, is it? It's not like going, oh, it's got this hint of IPA from the hops and stuff like that. It is, you know, there's no other beer style in the world where you'd say lemon, vanilla, orange peel, coriander, a kind of a sourness without it being sour, which comes from the combination of the dryness and the fruit peel. It's one of those beers that's really hard to describe, and all the better for that, because each time it feels different.
And it has a body to it, which is from the wheat, which is like really luxuriant.
And from the characteristics of that yeast as well. Yeast has a lot to do with mouthfeel, the texture on your tongue as well, and it's a specific yeast that's only really used for wit beer styles, or like white IPAs where you really hop a white beer, and they can be delicious, but often they bump up against each other. So it's interesting that this isn't a more popular style. Like every single heritage style that we have in the world, it was kind of bumped off by the rise of pale lager.
Yeah.
So after pale lager was invented, Pilsner Urquell came out, everybody started copying it. This was one of the beers, you know, it was hazy. So as soon as people had glassware rather than stoneware, they started going, ooh, what else is in this?
Yeah.
It wasn't as
impure,
clean and refreshing.
It would be like, it looks impure.
Exactly.
Basically back in the day.
So this wheat beer pretty much disappeared from the farmhouse breweries of France and Belgium, you know, from about 1840 until about 1960 when Hoegaarden came back on the scene.
Yeah.
And sadly, I mean, I think that beer started with the best intentions and then got kind of mangled by macro brewers. So we're really lucky that in the 90s, Allagash came along and started making it. And now in the UK, we've got Duration making it. We've had a Cloudwater version. And there's lots of traditional ones in Belgium, you know, either growing or coming back again, like Blanche de Bruxelles. We've got St Bernardus Wit. And, you know, they're never going to be wildly popular. But if you go to Maine in New England, it's this beer is there next to the Guinness and probably Boston Lager.
That's it. I mean, it's predominant out there, and I think, it's incredible. It's so strange that it's like regionally so popular in New England when that's like seemingly has little to do with its heritage, other than that, you know, America's like a mongrel nation that has, you know, influences from around the world. It's amazing that it's been, you know, taken up and is now this like a world-beating beer.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. And I think it only grows in certain regions because it requires somebody really passionate about it to really push it. So in Belgium, you can understand that, people brewing their traditional styles. In Maine, it took one guy who was like, you know, I love Hoegaarden and I want to make an American version of it. And he's pushed it through some really tough times. Like we found out when we went there, it was not a huge hit initially. And probably most of America looks at Maine and goes, why do you all love Allagash White so much? And if you have it enough times, you start to go, oh.
Exactly.
It's an absolutely beautiful, balanced, drinkable beer that, you know, I'm so glad wasn't lost to the annals of time and is I wouldn't say it's coming back. It's never going to be trendy. It's not hoppy enough or sour enough. But it's this wonderful curiosity that whenever I see a wit beer, I always want to give it a go because I'm basically looking for this beer, but available in Europe.
Yeah.
And if you want to learn more about it, obviously Allagash White is a great place to go. Like we said, Duration are making some in the UK, and obviously Blanche de Bruxelles, which is quite a sweet version, and then the St Bernardus Wit, which is a bit drier. are absolutely stunning. And like I say, a little window into the past, a little taste of, what 14th, 15th or 16th century beers might have tasted like, particularly if you get a mixed firm one rather than a beautiful clean one like this.
And isn't that amazing that we can sort of drink something which seems quite modern and quite different to the crowd, but it's so referential of a 500-year-old style.
Exactly.
Amazing.